August 17th, 1969. Eastern Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam. 02:14 a.m. The jungle is a living thing tonight, wet leaves breathing out mist, insects humming like static, the air thick enough to feel on your skin. 12 silhouettes lie motionless beneath the dripping canopy, faces smeared with charcoal, rifles pressed against their chests. They haven't spoken a word in hours. They won't speak until dawn. Sergeant Callum Reeves, 26 years old, scans the darkness through the raised aperture of his AN-PVS-2 starlight scope. To his right, Trooper Ian Whisper Mallory shifts barely a centimeter, easing a vine away from the tripwire he's anchoring to a claymore stake. The movement is so small it might be imagined. In the Australian SASR, silence is not a guideline. It is doctrine. Ahead of them, the jungle descends into a shallow gully where a narrow track runs east to west. That track is the reason they're here. Intelligence from a captured courier suggests a Viet Cong battalion, nearly 200 men, will move down this trail before dawn, relocating to a new staging area after days of evading ARVN sweeps. The VC believe the Australians have withdrawn from this sector. They are wrong. Reeves checks his watch. 02:15 a.m. The humidity fogs the glass. He wipes it with the back of a gloved thumb and shifts his gaze toward the kill zone. 4 claymores sit hidden along the track, 2 on each side, connected by a web of detonation cord, firing wire, and pressure triggers. But these aren't standard American setups. Australian engineers have modified them for directional fragmentation specific to bamboo cover, doubling their effective kill radius. No one here intends to fire a rifle unless absolutely necessary. Tonight's ambush must begin with pure shock. A soft tap touches Reeves's boot. Trooper Mallory signals. Final wire is set. Reeves nods once, then slides backward over the damp mulch until he reaches Lieutenant Adam Kerr, the patrol commander. Kerr is ghost-like in the gloom, a faint outline beneath fern fronds. His breath is controlled, slow, deliberate. He has commanded night ambushes before, but never one against numbers like this. 200 men, 12 Australians. No moon, no room for error. Positions, Kerr whispers. Not through speech, but through a gentle hand signal that travels man to man like a current. The patrol splits into 2 cells, each sliding into pre-selected firing lanes flanking the kill zone. They move with absolute quiet, the kind that comes only from weeks of training, slow exhalation, and the acceptance that even a twig snapping could cost lives. Reeves settles behind a rotting log, the smell of fungus thick and earthy. His M16 sits across his lap, though he hopes he won't have to use it. Beside him, Corporal Mick Durrant raises binoculars and adjusts the focus until the trail becomes a faint ribbon of silver. Minutes pass, then dozens, then an hour. The jungle shifts. A bird gives a warning trill, sharp, sudden, wrong for this hour. Durrant freezes. Reeves's pulse quickens. Kerr's silhouette tenses against the tree trunk. Then they hear it. Footsteps, soft, many, too many. A murmur of cloth, a metallic clink, breathing, the unmistakable rhythm of marching men. The Viet Cong are close, very close. Through the starlight scope, Reeves watches faint shapes bleed into existence. Helmet silhouettes, rifles slung low, the outlines of dozens of men moving in staggered columns. The lead company is less than 20 meters from the kill zone. They're relaxed, talking under their breath, confident the area is abandoned. Kerr inhales silently. This is the moment. He raises his fist, holds, waits for the exact second the bulk of the battalion compresses into the kill zone. Reeves feels sweat sliding down his spine. Mallory's fingers hover over the clacker. Every man waits for one signal. Kerr drops his fist. Mallory squeezes the clacker. The jungle erupts. Claymores roar like thunder, 4 near-simultaneous blasts, fireballs shredding the night, ripping through bamboo, tearing the lead company apart before screams even begin. But the Australians still do not fire. Not yet. They wait for the shock to do its work. The blasts do more than kill. They erase sound, swallowing every noise in a wall of concussive force that slams through the gully. For 3 full seconds, the world is nothing but white fire and shattered bamboo. Leaves whirl upward in a storm of embers. The Viet Cong in the front ranks don't even fall. They simply vanish into the blast, silhouettes torn apart and thrown backward by the Claymore's directional steel balls. Then the screams begin. They come jagged, broken, panicked, shouts in Vietnamese as the battalion realizes it has walked into death. The middle column stumbles backward into the men behind them, bodies piling, rifles clattering. Officers shout contradictory orders. Some try to dive off the trail, others freeze, blinded by shock and dust. Still, the Australians hold their fire. From his position, Sergeant Callum Reeves sees the first survivors staggering out of the smoke. Men covered in dirt and blood, stumbling, disoriented, clutching rifles they haven't even raised. The clacker is already reset for a second-stage burst, wired into auxiliary charges deeper in the gully. Lieutenant Adam Kerr steadies his breathing. His hand lifts, only halfway. Not yet. The VC attempt to regain formation. One officer climbs onto a collapsed tree trunk, waving his arms, shouting orders, trying to form firing lines in the darkness. Through the starlight scope, Reeves sees the man's mouth moving, his body silhouetted by the faint glow of tritium markings on a fallen rifle. Kerr lowers his hand. Mallory hits the second clacker. A second eruption tears through the night. These aren't claymores, they're Australian-engineered fragmentation charges set in a V pattern. They explode upward in a vertical cone, shredding canopy and raining down shards of bamboo and metal. VC soldiers drop to their knees, hands covering their heads, terrified of an enemy they still cannot see. Chaos becomes terror. Some break left, diving into the undergrowth. Others surge right, trying to flank, but Kerr has already anticipated the instinct. He signals Reeves. Reeves lifts a small clicker, barely audible, but to the SAS team it is the command. All 12 operators shift their weight forward, preparing for the silent phase. Corporal Durant pulls a dark cylinder from his rig, a psychological disruption charge engineered to produce a shrill, rising scream when thrown. He lobs it ahead. It lands in a cluster of VC still trying to stand. A piercing metallic shriek erupts, unnatural, directional, echoing between the trees like a banshee. The Viet Cong flinch, dropping flat, hands over their ears. Still no gunfire from the Australians, not a single rifle shot. Reeves can hear the battalion unraveling, officers yelling, men crying, some desperately firing blind bursts into the jungle. Tracer rounds rip through the foliage far from any Australian position. They're shooting at ghosts. One NVA radio man tries to raise his handset. Reeves can see his hands shaking. He gets only a few syllables out before Kerr makes a fist. It's time. Mallory clicks the final trigger. 4 more claymores detonate from the flanks, staggered in a perfect rhythm. Left, right, front, right. Not simultaneous, staggered, intentional, designed to mimic rapid flanking movement and create the illusion of multiple attacking platoons. The Viet Cong believe they're surrounded, and now finally Kerr signals the order the Australians have been waiting for. Weapons free. Reeves snaps his M16 to his shoulder, choosing targets with surgical calm. Durant fires controlled bursts. Mallory engages clusters moving toward the tree line. Not spray. Precision. The Australian SAS fire as if they are one organism, each man covering a specific arc, each burst lasting less than a second, each shot intentional. Within moments, VC survivors break entirely, fleeing into the jungle in every direction, some dropping their rifles, others crying out the location of imagined enemies. The battalion is no longer a fighting force, it is a panicked mob, and the Australians, they are already shifting position. Kerr taps Reeves twice. Phase 3, movement. The ambush is not over, it is only changing shape. The moment Lieutenant Kerr gives the signal, every SAS operator begins sliding backward into the trees. No rush, no panic, no wasted motion. The key to a clean break is discipline. Move only when the enemy is blind, and right now the Viet Cong are blinded by fear, smoke, darkness, and the echoes of explosions that still ring in their skulls. Sergeant Callum Reeves rises into a half-crouch, boots sinking into mud softened by the shock waves. He swaps his nearly empty magazine with a fresh one, but he doesn't slam it home. He presses it in gently, guiding the bolt forward with his thumb to keep the action silent. To a regular infantryman, this is unnecessary. To an SAS trooper operating within arm's reach of enemy survivors, it's the difference between vanishing and being detected. Behind him, Trooper Nolan drags a bamboo frond over their footprints, erasing the trail as they go. The ambush site is dissolving, like they were never here. But the Viet Cong are still very much here. Reeves hears frantic whispers from the trail, the voices of men trying to reorganize. Some are crawling through the debris, checking for survivors. Others scramble up the embankment, rifles raised toward nothing. The jungle's stillness only makes their panic more apparent. Then a flare arcs upward. Its red glow spreads across the canopy like a bloodstain. Kerr curses under his breath. If even a few VC spot movement, the Australians could be trapped between regrouping fighters and incoming reinforcements. The team freezes where they stand, bodies pressed against roots and trunks. The flare lands with a hiss. For 10 seconds, the jungle is lit in a dull, hellish glow. Reeves doesn't blink, Nolan doesn't breathe. Even the insects seem to go quiet. A VC platoon emerges below, 40, maybe 50 men. They've formed a defensive semicircle around a wounded officer, scanning the trees with rifles trembling in their hands. Their eyes sweep right over the Australians' position and keep moving. Kerr raises 2 fingers, shift right. The team pivots laterally along the slope, moving like shadows. One man covering while another advances, silent, bounding overwatch. Every few steps, Reeves stops, listens, checks the wind direction, adjusts their angle. They don't want the VC following anything. Not footprints, not crushed leaves, not sweat. The Australians are ghosts. They must remain ghosts. Halfway through their withdrawal, Durrant spots something. An NVA radio man crawling uphill with a PRC-25 handset. If he reaches high ground and gets a signal out, the entire region could flood with reinforcements. Tanks, mortars, infantry. The Australians could be hunted for days. Kerr's hand flicks. Reeves, take it. Silent. Reeves nods once. He slides his knife free, keeping his body low, steps carefully over tangled roots, moving with the same predatory patience he learned in training. Every step is placed where there is already debris, never on fresh leaves. The radio man sniffles, blood trailing from his eyebrow. He's whispering coordinates into the mic, unaware the radio is damaged. The antenna snapped clean off when the claymore detonated. He doesn't hear Reeves behind him. A hand clamps over his mouth. A quick pull backward, one clean strike. The body settles quietly into the brush. Reeves drags the radio deeper into the foliage and signals clear. He doesn't feel triumph, just necessity. 12 men cannot afford mercy here. The team reaches the pre-planned secondary hide, a shallow natural depression beneath twisted roots of a fallen teak tree. It's dark, camouflaged, and elevated, perfect for observation. Kerr, breathing steady, raises binoculars. Below, the Viet Cong have completely fractured. Some are trying to pull their dead from the kill zone. Others sprint into the forest, convinced the Australians are encircling them. A few fire sporadic bursts into empty shadows. There is no counterattack coming. There is no coordinated response. The battalion is broken, but the Australians are not finished. This final phase will determine whether the VC can recover, or whether panic will spread through the entire regiment. Kerr whispers, barely audible. Prepare movement to tertiary point. We finish it clean. The SAS tighten their gear. The jungle holds its breath. Lieutenant Kerr lowers his binoculars, the lenses still glowing faintly with reflected firelight. Below them, the Viet Cong battalion is no longer moving with the structure of soldiers. It is moving with the disorientation of survivors. Clusters stumble through smoke, others crawl through mud, some shout orders no one follows. The once disciplined march has collapsed into a frantic, directionless retreat. Kerr signals the final maneuver, Phase 4, the disappearance. The SAS will not stay to exploit the ambush. That is the mistake of less experienced units, lingering too long in the kill zone, waiting for a counterattack that always comes. Tonight is about precision, not conquest. 12 men cannot defeat 200, but they can break them, scatter them, and vanish before the jungle wakes. Reeves touches Durrant's shoulder. Mallory adjusts the strap of his claymore bag. Trooper Nolan checks the direction of the wind once more. The team begins moving uphill toward the tertiary extraction point, a narrow ridge known only to them. Each man passes the signal silently. Slow pace, noise discipline, rearguard rotation every 50 meters. Behind them, the Viet Cong are still firing into the dark, aimless bursts, wasted ammunition, bullets slicing through empty vines and branches. A few shout that they are surrounded. Others insist there are dozens of Australians, maybe hundreds, hidden all around them. The Australians let the confusion deepen. As they climb the ridge, the forest becomes denser, older, quieter. Vines hang like curtains. Thick buttress roots funnel their steps. Even their breathing seems absorbed by the green. Halfway up, Reeves hears something. Footsteps behind them, light, hesitant. He raises his fist. The patrol freezes. Below on the slope, a lone VC scout emerges, limping, eyes scanning wildly. His rifle droops at his side. He's separated from his unit and terrified. The man pauses, squints upward, sensing movement. For a moment, he is staring directly at Reeves's position. Reeves stays still, a statue in the dark. The scout takes one shaky breath, mutters something to himself, then turns and hurries back downslope, convinced he felt nothing more than a branch shifting in the wind. When his footsteps fade, Kerr breaks the stillness with a subtle signal. Continue. The SAS reach the top of the ridge. From here, they move along the crest in single file, each man stepping exactly where the one before him stepped. The ridge bends east, then descends into a natural corridor of dense undergrowth. Perfect cover. As they move through the corridor, the distant sounds of the shattered battalion echo behind them. Orders shouted with no authority. Wounded men crying out, officers trying to form rear guards, someone blowing a whistle desperately. The Australians do not look back. By the time the faint glow of dawn begins to penetrate the canopy, the SAS patrol is already approaching its designated extraction clearing, a small, choked patch of high grass, invisible from above. This is where they'll wait for the helicopter pickup window later in the day. Reeves kneels at the clearing's edge, scanning for signs of movement. Nothing. No footprints, no disturbances. Good. Kerr gathers the team. His voice is calm, barely louder than the insects. That's it. Mission complete. No cheering, no boasting, just quiet acknowledgement. 12 men sit in a half circle, catching their breath but never letting their guard drop. Mallory jots notes in a field pad, blast patterns, VC formation, timing of the retreat. Durrant checks his remaining ammunition. Nolan replaces a broken strap. Reeves wipes sweat from his brow and finally allows himself a slow exhale. He listens to the jungle breathing around them, resetting itself after the violence of the night. And somewhere behind them, 200 Viet Cong are still trying to understand what happened, still convinced they were attacked by a force far larger than 12 men, still firing into ghosts, still running from shadows that were never there. This is how the Australian SAS fights, not with noise, not with numbers, but with mastery. And by the time the sun rises, the ghosts have already gone.